Coach, how was the offseason? Just talk about the strength program and how everything went.
For us, something a little new, at least really with my time with Coach Leipold, going back to the Buffalo days, is we had 8 full weeks with the team this year, which is that's a long offseason. I think normally, even in the summertime, the most you might get is 7 if you include some of the breaks and discretionary weeks. So really, this is since Coach and I have worked together, this has been the most complete offseason we've had. So from a standpoint of development, it's something that obviously we pride ourselves in. We've been able to make a lot of it, I think, in a lot of aspects, both physically and culturally. But all in all, the way we operate is you look back and there's things we want to continue to do better, and we'll alter and change moving forward. But I think all in all, pretty happy with the progress we made.
Those 8 weeks, what does that allow you to do as the head strength coach?
I think there's 2 things. When you look at it from a performance standpoint, you just get to unload the season a little bit better. When you have 4, I can think of a year we had 4 weeks. I can think of a year we've had 5. I can think of a year we had 6. And it's more just the speed at which you have to get guys prepared to play spring ball again. And so for us, it's maybe not that we necessarily moved too much further forward than normal, but we were able to unpack the season a lot better. So just get guys back to even keel, and we really able to take our time, which it's you do get results from that now, but where you really benefit from that is in the summertime, because you get a much more solid foundation. So we really just took our time through things a lot more with the guys, got guys feeling better, and with the season we had, giving us more time to unpack and kind of deload from that season, I think was critical. And the other great thing about it is it just gives you more time with the new guys. It gives you more time to implement them a little bit more slowly, to where if you have 4 to 5 weeks, you got to get those guys ready to do something they've never done before at our pace and our tempo and the way we do things. So there's a lot of benefits to doing it like that.
You mentioned the new guys with the early enrollees. What's that process like working with guys that were in a high school strength program, 4 months ago?
Yeah, for us, it's you meet them where they're at, okay? And there's a lot of coaches that do things different ways, who say, hey, we're only going to bodyweight squat for 8 straight weeks no matter what. Well, I'm not really like that, because I think there's guys that come. You look at Harry Stewart. Harry Stewart's a guy, his calves are bigger than my thighs, and his thighs are bigger than my waist, And so I'm not going to have that kid come in here and squat med balls, He's not getting anything out of that. So you have guys that come all over the place, and I can think of Marcus Calvin from last year, the high school he came from, they didn't even have a barbell or a rack in it. And so I'm going to train him the same way that I'm going to train, a guy like Harry Stewart. You're not. So I think for us, the great thing about having a great strength staff like we have, and the guys that we have, you're able to kind of split that up to really meet those guys' needs. So the first thing you do is you screen them all, you get an idea where they're at and what they need. And there's guys that come, like I said, they're all over the place at different levels. There's guys like Deshaun Hanika, who comes as an older body, and you look at some of the things he needs, it's totally different than a guy like Isaiah Marshall. And then culturally, it's the same way. There's guys that kind of come from places that have a little better idea of what this looks like, and there's other guys, there's I think Isaiah Marshall is a guy that I can remember, one of our leadership development courses, we're talking about leading by example. Well, for us, we consider that breathing in this program. Okay, if you don't do things the right way, that's the baseline of leadership. We don't consider that leading in this sense. That's just being a good teammate. And to him, he's like, I can remember, he's like, I just never heard that before. I just didn't know you had to be, vocally challenging and trying to make people better. And I'm like, there we go. That's like a baseline thing. So, kind of all over the place. It's been really good though.
Go ahead. Someone like Dak, Coach Leipold talks about the fact that when he showed up, they weren't sure that he's going to be able to be on the field. Talk to us about kind of his progression working with you guys in the weight room.
It's continuous. It's still ongoing. The thing, so when we look at a guy like that, coming off a surgery that they had in high school, and you just want to take your time with those guys, and there's no rush, and especially you really want to create good foundational strength. So once again, it's ongoing. We're continuing to lay those foundations, but for me, it's so much more about developing processes with those guys. Like, what are the habits, structures, and routines that we can develop with those guys culturally, that's not just going to get results for these first 8 weeks, but for the next 4 years. And that part is absolutely essential. I can't tell you how much we prioritize that in off-season development over anything else. If our processes aren't championship level processes, it doesn't matter how good the program is, the strength conditioning program is, how big, fast, strong we are. It'll never take us where we're trying to take this program.
How much, you keep mentioning culturally, how much of spring or the off-season to date has landed in your corner of staying hungry and not worry about winning 9 games last year? It's got to be more. And you got a bunch of veterans who already believe that, but how much has that infiltrated what you do and how you operate?
Yeah, I think it's been everything. I can remember talking to Coach. It might have been 10 minutes after the game, and we talked about some of the penalties and some of the things we needed to clean up, and we started talking about those things immediately. But then we immediately flipped to the offseason, and we talked about how we can't let this team become complacent. We've overcome a lot of things here since we've been here, but one thing we have not done yet is we have not overcome expectation. We haven't had that yet. So this is a totally new challenge, I think. So one thing that breathes life into us as a staff. That's exciting. It's a new challenge. It's something that's what we love to do, and that starts with Coach Leipold. And there's nothing he loves more than a challenge. If you guys haven't got to spend too much time with him, and so it goes from it, but it proliferates into the program. It's the first thing we talked about in our team meeting coming back. It was the main thing. We talked about the killers of culture, and the number one thing is complacency. Is when we become satisfied and do those things. But at the end of the day, in the standards of what's been done here before, we might have had some success the last 3 years in those terms, but in the grand scheme of what we're trying to accomplish, what do we have to be complacent about? We talk about winning a Big 12 championship, but we haven't done it yet. We didn't do it last year, so what are we going to get complacent about? But if there's one thing I'm most pleased about, it's the attitude, and it's the way our guys are attacking. We have not sensed that at all. And what I can tell you guys is, early in my career, I can remember having some 8 and 9 week off seasons as a head strength coach, and I can always remember right around week 6 is when guys started getting really tired of lifting, and they got tired of me barking at them all the time, and then it kind of became that cat and mouse game of just getting them to, come on, like let's just get through the rest of this offseason, then we'll get to football. I did not sense that this offseason until the day we left for spring break. That morning when guys were flying out, they came in, and I'm like, all right, they're a little squirrely. I got to wrap them back in. But hand to God, I'm telling you that there was not a day before that, 7 weeks and 4 days of training, that I noticed that there was any sense of let's just kind of get through this today. It was every day these guys are competing. And so once again, I'm excited about what we did the 8 weeks, but to me, the foundation that builds for what we can do the rest of this offseason, I think that's what's the critical piece of it.
It seems like you can't make a list of guys that stand out in that area. That would be.
I don't want to.
Right?
I don't. Yeah, and that's why I've had some people ask me. I know in the past you hear coaches say I don't want to say one name because I'll leave someone out, but I truly mean that. There's no way, unless I took up the next 30 minutes of your guys' time, that I could talk about all the guys that made great progress. And the cool thing is we have development all over the place. You're seeing some of these really young guys that kind of came last year that maybe took a while to really figure this thing out of what it's going to be like here to compete here, that really made great progress. Some of the Keaton Kopekas, Jaden Hams of the world, some of those kind of guys. Then you see, some of the older guys. Jacoby Bryant's had the best offseason he's ever had here. And I don't mean just from a physical standpoint. I mean the way and the level in which he's bought into his diet and nutrition and the way he's straining and competing. So there's those guys that are still developing in the program. But it's what we talk about. When we recruit, it's what we talk about. We are going to develop you from the second you walk in this program until the day you leave it. And honestly, after. I don't know if you guys saw Kenny Logan out here. It's just not going to stop with us. If we have the ability and availability to, we're going to develop you.
Coach, Jason Bean always laid the claim that he was the fastest guy. With him gone, who now is in the running for that?
Yeah, Bean would still be the fastest guy if he was here today. He's got some elite level speed. A guy who made tremendous development this offseason was Mason Ellis. And I wouldn't. This is not who I would have said, because he wasn't 2, 3, or even 4 this time last year. But he's been our fastest guy. He's at the fastest clock time. But some of those young guys too have ran some pretty fast times. Jalen Todd, Harry Stewart, Damani's hit some really good times. So Skinner's always going to be up there. But right now, as it stands today, if I'm just answering that from a standpoint of what's quantitative, it's Mason Ellis.
How long have you been doing the speeding ticket thing?
That was new this year.
Yeah.
Just trying to put the thing, and honestly, I kicked myself a little bit because we wanted to create even a more competitive environment. So we did some fun things like that this off season, and we really began to measure and publish and award and do those kind of things with everything we did. And it turned like it's times now that there's days in training you can't just go as hard as you can all the time every day in training. There's days you have to let the body recover. And sometimes I kick myself because I can't get them to stop. Like there's times I'm like, guys, I need you guys to just relax for me for 5 seconds, okay? It's like I got to hide some of the weights in the weight room now, which I can tell you 2 years ago that wasn't a problem, guys. So there's times we're pulling weights off of other machines. So we're getting there. We're getting closer. we're getting closer.
How did you come up with the idea of doing a speeding ticket like that?
I don't know. You bounce ideas off of things. You just try to think about ways to get guys excited about things. We talk about T-shirts, and just figured that was maybe a little bit easier way to do it. But the guys are like, they're posting them on there, so they love it. They're all about it. And so the other one we have a heavy load entrance for sign we have for all the big boys, and so there's a certain mark they have to push a prowler. They have 5 seconds to push it 10 yards, and if they can do it with 400 pounds on the prowler, then they get to go sign the sign. So you'll hear just these noises coming out from over on that side of the field, and one of them gets it, and they'll go and they'll get the Sharpie and they'll sign it. So we've done some unique things like this this year that's been really cool.
How many guys have signed it so far?
Let's see. Well, here's the cool thing. So the first time we did it, it was just one. It was DK Stearns, and now we had 18 guys total sign it by the end of the 8 weeks. So you just, once again, you see the growth and where it's at of the first week. The amount of guys that could push it was only one, and by the time you got to week 8, you had 18 guys pushing it, which at the end of the day is what bigs need to do. They need to push heavy things that direction. So it's pretty specific to what they do too.